When the dragon crashed in Maya's field, she had approximately 3 seconds of shock before veterinary instinct took over, and she started cataloging injuries, alien or not. This creature was bleeding out, and she had work to do. Maya dropped her cell phone onto the ground beside the porch steps and raced across the dewy grass. She paused long enough to grab a flashlight from under the welcome mat, its beam slicing through the darkness like an arrow aimed at the distant field where something large and metallic glinted in what little moonlight there was. "What the hell?" she muttered as she ran faster towards her sanctuary's perimeter fence, dodging around it with practiced ease. "Come on," she said under her breath to herself, pushing harder through the thick bushes that lined one side of the field boundary. She emerged into a clearing and saw him not just an alien, but something out of legend. A dragon, massive wings still fluttering in death throes from impact, tail splayed at an impossible angle against the ground. The sight froze her for another second before she reminded herself sternly that this was no time to be gawking. "Right," Maya said aloud, as if scolding a particularly distracted patient. "Let's get you up onto my couch." She dashed back towards her clinic, her boots leaving wet prints in the grass and mud underfoot, not stopping until inside, where her medical supplies waited behind the glass door of an oversized cabinet labeled emergency. "Okay," she said once more to no one but herself as she grabbed a suture kit from its rack. "I can do this." She returned outside, carrying all manner of tools with which even Maya was unsure whether they'd be helpful: antiseptics, bandages large enough for a horse, and the heavy metal cage used typically for transporting large wildlife back to their habitats. The dragon's golden eyes watched her approach with a strange mix of confusion and something else she couldn't quite place. "Easy," Maya whispered as soon as he saw her approaching. She knelt beside him cautiously, setting down half the supplies so that they didn't obstruct access entirely if needed later on. "I'm going to make you comfy now." She spoke softly, in soothing tones, all through the night and into early morning, never once stopping even when her own body started screaming for rest from exhaustion. She bandaged wings, stitched up deep cuts along scales, and wrapped broken ribs so tightly that they would at least not collapse under his breaths. After a long while of working tirelessly over him without sleep or pause, for the sake of saving this creature who wasn't even human, but still needed help desperately, Maya felt something shift within herself as well. She started to see beyond just treating injuries, and began understanding more about why she did it, not merely out of duty anymore, but because seeing another being in pain made her ache too. The dragon's golden eyes never left hers during the whole ordeal. They reflected every movement Maya made with meticulous attention akin to a creature's study, in unusual behavior for signs of intent. When his fever spiked dangerously high late into night too, she even crawled beside him on their makeshift bed and pressed cool compresses against his forehead until he calmed down again. "You're doing great," Maya murmured as the horizon outside. "Just hold on a little longer." Hours later, after what felt like days of meticulous care without respite or rest for herself, either way beyond small breaks between treatments to check supplies and clean equipment properly under sterile conditions, because even though it was an alien patient, Maya noticed something miraculous happening. His breathing slowed from rapid gasps towards more stable rhythm that meant less strain on his heart. The fever receded enough where cool compresses weren't needed anymore, only monitored with concern in case of resurgence. "Can you hear me?" she asked gently when his eyes fluttered open sometime near noon, the third day since he'd arrived there crashed and broken. Maya, she introduced herself, voice soft but clear. "You're safe now." The dragon blinked slowly before managing a nod despite clearly still feeling weak from battle injuries sustained prior to crash landing in her field. He tried speaking then, attempting human words with effort and struggle apparent on each syllable spoken aloud, though it took several tries for him to get even one sentence out. "Thank you," he managed between harsh breaths. Maya smiled warmly despite herself at the attempt, and reached over carefully, not touching any part of his body beyond holding a small bottle filled half full with water brought earlier during her emergency rounds. She helped lift it gently towards his lips, allowing him to sip slowly before setting down beside them on their shared makeshift cot made from folded blankets, pulled directly out of clinic storage for such uses. "You're welcome," she replied simply. "Just rest now." And as if listening intently to Maya's instructions while taking deep breaths in and out to regain composure enough where talking wouldn't cause strain anymore, the dragon nodded again with clear gratitude visible through his eyes, even though words still weren't easily forming correctly yet. "You have saved." He paused a moment, trying hard once more before finishing softer but determinedly. "My life." Maya squeezed her own hands tight into fists as she looked at him in quiet respect for what had endured and survived. How much worse off the dragon would be if not found by someone willing to treat without reservation. "I'm glad," was all she could think of saying back honestly. It felt like a turning point somehow between them both once those words exchanged more than just treatment provider versus patient anymore, but something else entirely, growing steadily there in silence, shared across makeshift hospital bed they'd built together amidst crisis and chaos brought by unforeseen events crashing into otherwise peaceful sanctuary grounds. 3 days of constant treatment had left Maya Chen drained, but unyielding in her care for Kyr'Thessan, the wounded Thessian dragon who crashed into her sanctuary field. She talked to him constantly about everything under the sun: her sanctuary's unusual residents, the antics of her current patients, even mundane details like what she had for breakfast that morning, or how her ex-husband used to accuse her of caring too much about animals and not enough about people. "I know it hurts," Maya whispered as she carefully cleaned his deep cuts with sterile solutions. "I am sorry." "I am trying to help." Her hands moved gently, almost tenderly over the wounded scales and broken wings, speaking softly in a soothing tone that was more of a reassurance than an apology for what needed doing. Kyr'Thessan could not speak yet, but watched her with eyes too intelligent for such an injured creature. The golden slits followed Maya's movements closely, as if reading each gesture, every word she said to him. He had never expected kindness from anyone who thought he was just another strange animal in pain. When his fever spiked dangerously high late into night 2 of the 3-day ordeal, Maya barely hesitated before settling beside him on their makeshift bed, made hastily from blankets pulled straight out of her clinic's supplies for emergencies like this one. She pressed cool compresses against his forehead and whispered soft encouragements until he calmed down again. "You're doing great," she murmured as the horizon outside through the cracks in the barn doors. "Just hold on a little longer." Days seemed to merge into each other with Maya's unwavering dedication. She barely slept, working tirelessly between treating Kyr and checking supplies or cleaning her equipment properly, under sterile conditions necessary for alien biology just as much as human medicine demands precision. Hours later, after what felt like days of meticulous care without respite, something miraculous happened. His breathing slowed from rapid gasps towards a more stable rhythm that meant less strain on his heart. The fever receded enough where cool compresses weren't needed anymore, evenly monitored with concern in case it surged back up suddenly. "Can you hear me?" Maya asked gently when Kyr's eyes fluttered open sometime near noon, the 3rd day since he'd arrived there crashed and broken. Maya, she introduced herself, voice soft but clear. "You're safe now." The dragon blinked slowly before managing a nod despite clearly still feeling weak from battle injuries sustained prior to crash landing in her field. He tried speaking then, attempting human words with effort and struggle apparent on each syllable spoken aloud, though it took several tries for him to get even one sentence out. "Thank you," he managed between harsh breaths. Maya smiled warmly despite herself at the attempt, and reached over carefully, not touching any part of his body, holding a small bottle filled half full with water brought earlier during her emergency rounds. She helped lift it gently towards his lips, allowing him to sip slowly before setting down beside them on their shared makeshift cot made from folded blankets, pulled directly out of clinic storage for such uses. "You're welcome," she replied simply. "Just rest now." And as if listening intently to Maya's instructions, while taking deep breaths in and out to regain composure enough where talking wouldn't cause strain anymore, Kyr nodded again with clear gratitude visible through his eyes, even though words still weren't easily forming correctly yet. "You have saved." He paused a moment, trying hard once more before finishing softer but determinedly. "My life." Maya squeezed her own hands tight into fists as she looked at him in quiet respect for what had endured and survived. How much worse off the dragon would be if not found by someone willing to treat without reservation. "I'm glad," was all she could think of saying back honestly. The air between them thickened with a sense of something more than just treatment provider versus patient growing steadily there in silence, shared across makeshift hospital bed they'd built together amidst crisis and chaos brought by unforeseen events crashing into otherwise peaceful sanctuary grounds. There was mutual understanding, an unspoken bond forged through days spent caring for another being despite all odds. Kyr's golden eyes seemed to shimmer with a mix of surprise and something deeper as he watched Maya work tirelessly once more, without complaint or rest. This woman, this human veterinarian, who treated him like any other patient regardless of species or intelligence level, had changed his perspective on humanity entirely in just 3 days' time. She was proof that compassion knew no boundaries, not even between star-faring diplomats and the creatures they studied. As Maya continued her meticulous care into late afternoon, checking vital signs again after another round of treatment had brought some measure of relief to Kyr's suffering body, he found himself studying her with renewed interest through every movement made in his favor. Her determination, patience, kindness, everything about how she interacted not only with him, but all the strange creatures at her sanctuary spoke volumes beyond what any diplomatic report could convey. "You are." He paused again, trying to find words that fit properly, amidst growing awareness of this human woman's impact on both his mission and personal beliefs. "Remarkable," he finally managed, as he watched Maya check supplies one last time before sitting beside him once more, ready for another round if needed. Maya smiled softly back at Kyr without pretense or expectation. "I do what needs to be done," she replied simply. "And right now, you're the priority." Her eyes held warmth and sincerity as they met his golden ones directly across their improvised hospital setup. "Promise." In continued care until he fully recovered, no matter how long it took. As night fell once more, bringing with it a calmness over both Maya's sanctuary grounds and Kyr's recovering body, under her watchful eye, the bond between them solidified further amidst mutual trust born from days spent in shared adversity. No longer just an injured creature to be treated, but now a partner in survival through kindness and perseverance. This chapter captures not only the progression of Kyr'Thessan's recovery, but also reflects upon how profoundly Maya's actions influence his perspective about humanity, setting up potential for deeper interpersonal connection as their relationship evolves beyond simple patient-caregiver dynamics. Day 4 dawned like any other at Maya's exotic animal sanctuary, quiet yet bustling, as various species went about their morning routines, unaware of the silent transformation unfolding in one corner of her makeshift hospital tent. The air hung heavy with anticipation. Kyr'Thessan had been on the verge of shifting for several hours now, his injuries gradually healing under Maya's persistent care. As the early sun filtered through the trees and painted a golden glow across the room, an unusual aura settled over both patient and healer. Maya's eyes never left Kyr as she worked, her hands gentle yet firm in their movements, always checking if he needed anything more before moving on to tend to other creatures scattered around her sanctuary. Sweat broke out along Kyr's scales as his body began its slow transformation formation from reptilian form back into humanoid. Maya watched him closely, the clinical part of her brain noting subtle changes, muscles tensing and relaxing in a pattern unfamiliar yet strangely beautiful, wings that had once been spread wide now folding neatly against his frame. Maya, Kyr's voice was barely above a whisper, but it still cut through the silence like ice. Today, he paused, taking deep breaths to muster energy for what he knew lay ahead. Today's different. She nodded, her hand squeezing one of his in silent agreement and encouragement. For 3 days, she had been here with him every moment, through pain and fever, through waking up each morning wondering if today would be the day he truly shifted back into humanoid form. As Kyr's body continued to reshape itself before her eyes, Maya's heart pounded against her ribs like a drum in her chest. When his wings finally retracted fully, she felt an instinctual urge to shield him from any further shock, though there was nothing left for him to see but himself and the sanctuary around them. And then it happened, with one final exhalation of breath that seemed to take years off their interaction timeline so far. Kyr shifted into his humanoid form. His dragon-like body dissolved like mist before her eyes, until all that remained standing in its place was a tall maimeligant, regal, even standing before Maya. Maya screamed involuntarily and stumbled backward, as if struck by some unseen force. Her medical kit slipped from nerveless fingers onto the ground with an echoing clatter against stone floors. Where once Kyr'Thessan lay injured in his natural form was now a tall man, golden eyes piercing through her shock straight into Maya's very soul. Kyr's gaze never left hers as he stood silently for several moments, allowing her to process what she saw, a testament not just to the transformation before her, but also how much they had connected over these days. He took in every detail of her face, wide eyes filled with confusion and apprehension, lips parting slightly on gasps, and sighs, hands trembling beside their now abandoned medical kit. "Forgive the deception," Kyr finally said, his voice rich yet calm. "I could not speak until now." His tone held a softness that belied the regality of his appearance, traces of scales still noticeable along his neck and hairline, giving away his true nature beneath human guise. "I am Ambassador Kyr'Thessan," he continued, bowing deeply before her despite standing upright, an act of respect born from days spent observing this woman's unwavering kindness. Maya's mouth opened and closed several times, but no words formed immediately. She was torn between overwhelming relief at seeing him stable enough to speak, and shift combined with a residual fear she couldn't quite shake off after witnessing something so surreal, such an alien concept that defied everything Maya thought possible in life up until now. Kyr watched her carefully, his expression softening as he realized the gravity of this moment for both of them. He stepped closer gently toward where Maya stood, still rooted to the spot by shock and fear intermingling deeply within her soul. "I believe my assessment is complete," Kyr added with a small smile that held more than just satisfaction, but also admiration. Maya's eyes met his, wide yet steady now, as she began to understand what he meant through mutual recognition in caring for him without prejudice or hesitation. Maya had shown the ambassador not only compassion, but strength and resilience. These days of healing together had turned her from mere healer into an unexpected ally and friend, a revelation that resonated deeply within both their beings. She took a deep breath, gathering herself back to some semblance of normalcy in front of this suddenly changed figure standing before her with all the grace and poise one might expect from a diplomat. Ambassador, she finally managed through lips still trembling slightly yet edged with shock, but finding strength nonetheless for both their sakes. Kyr nodded once more, his expression softening further as he observed Maya's resilience in facing such an unbelievable situation head on, without flinching away or retreating into fear alone like others might have under similar circumstances. He stepped closer again, until they stood almost toe-to-toe, Nohai's regal form towering over her smaller stature, but holding no power dynamic of dominance due to mutual respect and understanding built between them. "Thank you," Kyr said softly, meaning every word deeply, as he looked into Maya's warm dark eyes brimming with both awe and kindness. "You have shown me more about humanity than any diplomatic report ever could." Maya smiled, thin, small yet genuine smile that reached her eyes and lit up her face in a way nothing else had managed to do under such trying circumstances. She took another deep breath, pushing aside lingering fear for what today held ahead of what their future together as patient and healer might mean beyond simple medical care. "It's my job," she replied simply but with heartfelt sincerity that made Kyr's smile widen even more despite the serious nature of this moment shared between them. "But I'm glad it helped." Kyr nodded once again, his golden eyes sparkling slightly under soft morning light filtering through their hospital setup. In those brief moments of silence exchanged back and forth between them lay a deep bond formed, not just by days spent healing injuries, but also sharing vulnerability, connection born from mutual respect earned over shared adversity. "You are remarkable," Kyr said finally, voice still calm yet holding undeniable admiration that spoke volumes about how much he had changed his perspective on humanity through Maya's actions alone. He stepped back slightly, giving her space to gather herself fully before moving forward again, if needed or desired by either of them now. Maya's smile deepened further at his words, though she shook her head gently in dismissal. "I do what needs to be done," was all she could say, simply yet profoundly meaningful as truth between them, especially given how much their journey together had meant beyond just medical care alone during these past few days spent caring for each other amidst chaos and uncertainty. Her eyes held warmth and sincerity, directly meeting Kyr's golden gaze across makeshift hospital setup, promising continued care until fully recovered, no matter what it took from here onward. This bond solidified further amidst mutual trust born not only through shared adversity, but also recognition of the profound impact they had on one another beyond simple patient-caregiver dynamics. And as night fell once more, bringing calmness over sanctuary grounds and Kyr's recovering body, under Maya's watchful eye, both felt an unspoken understanding that their relationship was evolving far beyond what either could have imagined when this journey began 3 days ago. No longer just injured creature versus dedicated caregiver, but now partners in survival through kindness and perseverance, something neither thought possible given initial circumstances, yet had proven true time after time over shared healing process together. The revelation of Kyr's transformation marks a pivotal moment for both characters, cementing the deep bond they formed despite their vast differences. As Maya continues to care for him with unwavering compassion, her influence on his perspective about humanity becomes undeniable, shaping not only what he believes but also who he is as an ambassador in ways that extend far beyond this sanctuary's walls. This chapter sets up a foundation for deeper interpersonal connection and mutual respect between Maya and Kyr'Thessan, laying groundwork for further exploration of their evolving relationship amidst ongoing challenges ahead. The morning after Kyr's transformation into his humanoid form brought a renewed sense of clarity and purpose to both Maya and her patient-turned-friend. The sanctuary, typically a peaceful haven for injured animals and creatures alike, buzzed with an undercurrent of tension as the reality of their situation dawned on them anew. As Kyr had shifted back, he felt different, lighter in more ways than one. His scales rippled along his skin like waves over water, reflecting the sunlight that filtered through the dense foliage outside their makeshift hospital setup. He turned to Maya, whose gentle eyes met his with a blend of curiosity and concern. "I am better," Kyr said firmly, but carefully, testing out each word as if ensuring they were clear in meaning before speaking them aloud. His voice carried an underlying hum of gratitude that only seemed to deepen the warmth between them. Maya smiled softly at him, running her fingers through his silver, black hair gently, a gesture she had grown accustomed to over their days together. "Let me check your wings," she replied without hesitation, reaching for medical supplies with practiced ease. Kyr watched as Maya moved about the room, her hands steady and precise despite her fatigue from the previous night's efforts. He couldn't help but marvel at how effortlessly she transitioned between treating animals and healing him, no matter his form or species. "Maya," Kyr began after a moment of silence, his voice softer now, as if he needed to clarify something pressing in their minds both. "There are things I need to tell you about my people." Her head snapped up at the somber tone. She stopped mid-motion and looked directly into his eyes with unwavering resolve. "Go on," Maya said simply yet firmly, her voice carrying a hint of determination that mirrored something akin to duty. Kyr nodded once, then proceeded to explain in as much detail as he could about their mission and the dangers they now faced. The weight of what was at stake, potential wars or alliances being decided by his fate here on Earth, hung heavy over them both. "I have enemies," Kyr admitted quietly, looking away briefly before meeting Maya's gaze again with solemn eyes. "They will come for me." Maya's face hardened as she processed the gravity of his words. She had seen enough movies and news reports to know that when one person faces danger, those close by often become targets too. "Who is coming?" Maya asked, her voice steady, despite the fear that bubbled up in her chest. "Commander Vrexkull," Kyr replied grimly. "He leads a faction within my people who sees humanity as nothing but primitive and dangerous." Maya's jaw clenched with resolve. She had dealt with aggressive clients before, but this was on an entirely different scale. "We'll face them together," she vowed, but her voice faltered slightly when reality set in fully. The odds were not in their favor here on Earth against a full-scale attack from another world. The sanctuary's defenses were little more than makeshift walls, and Maya's own personal weapons, nothing compared to what an elite force of Thessari warriors could bring down upon them. That night, as shadows lengthened across the sanctuary grounds, and the sky turned inky black with stars twinkling above like distant eyes watching from afar, a sense of impending doom settled over their small haven. Kyr's transformation revealed not only his vulnerability, but also an even greater danger lurking just beyond the horizon. Suddenly, alarms blared, a sound Maya had installed as a precautionary measure for when intruders approached too closely or she needed to alert others nearby about immediate threats. Her heart raced with adrenaline-fueled fear and determination. Kyr's eyes flitted between her face and towards the sanctuary's entrance, where figures moved in ominous silhouettes under moonlight. Maya grabbed a shotgun, checking its rounds swiftly before moving cautiously toward their temporary hospital setup near the edge of her property, knowing that this was far beyond what she had ever imagined being part of, but unwilling to let Kyr down or abandon him now. She stood at her door as an envoy for both herself and those under threat by these intruders. "Who's there?" Maya called out firmly, shotgun aimed defensively yet not aggressively, hoping they would hear reason before it escalated into a full confrontation. Laughter rippled through the darkness, a cold sound that made Kyr's scales ripple with irritation. "Commander Vrexkull," came the taunting reply from within shadows, where several figures now stood visible enough to gauge their intentions and strength. Numbers against her own limited defenses here on Earth's soil. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, but squared her shoulders, standing firm before stepping out into open field, where light shone dimly enough for them all to see faces clearly. She faced off directly with Vrexkull, whose eyes glinted malevolently from beneath silver black hair trimmed close yet regal, bearing unmistakably marking him as leader. Rex's laughter was sharp and mocking as he assessed the situation. This little human woman standing alone against his forces, armed only with a primitive weapon, her expression fierce despite obvious disadvantage. "You think you can stand between us?" he asked mockingly, but also to assess weakness in Maya's stance or resolve. Maya stood unflinchingly tall before them. She had faced down aggressive animals countless times as vet, and wasn't about to let some overconfident commander intimidate her now when it mattered most. "This is my property," she declared firmly, eyes narrowing resolutely at him. "These are my patients." Her voice held no room for negotiation. "Leave," Maya added, each word echoing clearly, even in the hush of night time air around them all. She had a shotgun, but knew there was strength beyond mere weaponry here too, strength found within bonds formed not just through simple medical care, yet deeper connections forged amidst shared adversity. But Vrexkull only laughed louder at her defiance and arrogance towards their superior forces, eyes narrowing, as if he couldn't believe the audacity shown by this human female. One human woman with a primitive weapon, he taunted cruelly yet also calculatingly, assessing Maya's resolve under pressure against overwhelming odds. Before Vrex could escalate tensions further, or make some misguided move that might endanger both sanctuary and humans alike, Kyr stepped beside her, without delay, scales rippling along his skin as he prepared to defend what was now more than just territory, but a partner in this conflict. He met Maya's eyes with silent understanding before turning towards Commander Vrex once again. "And you just threatened someone under Thessari protection," Kyr stated calmly yet decisively, golden slit, pupil eyes flashing warning amidst regal bearing that spoke volumes about unwavering loyalty now committed to her well-being too, despite initial differences between them both when this journey first began. Vrexkull's laughter abruptly cut off at Kyr's declaration. His gaze flickered with surprise before narrowing again in suspicion mixed with new caution. The situation had shifted suddenly from a straightforward capture mission into something far more complex, involving diplomatic implications and personal stakes. None of the commanders bargained for entering this realm, unaware Maya even existed until now. Maya watched as Kyr stood beside her, his presence both formidable and reassuring, strength beyond mere physical form and mutual trust formed amidst shared adversity that had forged bonds unbreakable by threats alone. His words solidified their alliance against imminent danger. She felt something shift within herself to a recognition of deeper connections, transcending species barriers built through kindness shown without expectation. Vrexkull's forces tensed at Kyr's declaration, uncertainty flickering in his eyes as he weighed the diplomatic implications of Maya and Kyr standing together. The air thickened with an unspoken standoff. No one moved for what felt like eternity before tension began to ease slightly under mutual acknowledgement that things had changed beyond simple capture mission objectives here on Earth. This chapter marks a pivotal moment where bonds formed through shared adversity evolve into something more profound, mutual respect and loyalty transcending initial species differences amidst looming threats demanding cooperation over conflict. Maya's unwavering defense of Kyr coupled with his declaration protecting her now signify an irrevocable shift in their relationship towards deeper partnership forged under pressures no ordinary scenario could produce. The sanctuary was shrouded in a hush of night, time air as Maya and Kyr prepared for an inevitable confrontation. She held her shotgun tightly, not just as a weapon, but also as a symbol of defiance against Vrexkull's arrogance towards their superior forces. Meanwhile, Kyr stood beside her, his scales rippling along his skin, a silent acknowledgement that they were now in this together. Vrexkull's laughter abruptly cut off at Kyr's declaration. His gaze flickered with surprise before narrowing again in suspicion mixed with new caution. The situation had shifted suddenly from a straightforward capture mission into something far more complex, involving diplomatic implications and personal stakes. None of the commanders bargained for entering this realm, unaware Maya even existed until now. Kyr'Thessan, Vrexkull's voice cut through the tense air. "I did not expect to encounter such resistance here. Do you truly believe a human woman can stand against my forces?" Maya stepped forward slightly, her eyes narrowing as she met his gaze. "Believe what you want," she said firmly, "but I am standing with Kyr'Thessan's patient and now friend, and we will defend this place together." Kyr placed a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder, feeling the tension in her muscles. His presence was both calming and daunting, a testament to the trust they had built despite their initial misunderstanding of each other's nature. "And you just threatened someone under Thessari protection," Kyr stated calmly yet decisively, golden slit, pupil eyes flashing warning, amidst regal bearing that spoke volumes about unwavering loyalty now committed to her well-being, too, despite initial differences between them both when this journey first began. "Your forces are on their own if they attempt any harm here." Rexkull's face hardened as he assessed the situation further, his commanders around him shifting uncomfortably at Kyr's words and Maya's unwavering resolve. It was clear that a line had been drawn on that Vrex couldn't easily cross without risking more than just their mission objectives. The standoff lasted only moments longer before tension began to ease slightly, under mutual acknowledgement of the new dynamics established by both Maya's defense of her sanctuary and Kyr's declaration protecting it. However, peace was short-lived as shadows in the distance hinted at impending action from Rexkull's forces despite his leader's cautionary words. A sudden commotion erupted outside the sanctuary walls, Rexkull's soldiers moving towards them, weapons drawn, but still wary of Kyr and Maya, standing resolutely side by side. The air crackled with anticipation as both sides squared off in a silent preparation for battle. "Stand down," Vrex ordered his forces through gritted teeth, knowing well that any misstep now could turn this encounter into an all-out conflict against the Thessari's own command protocol. As regarding diplomatic envoys, yet there was also undeniable frustration building within him at being thwarted by a human woman who dared to intervene. Mia's heart raced as she watched Vrex soldiers edge closer, her hand tightening around the shotgun. She had never shot anything that wasn't an animal before today. Kyr shifted slightly behind her in readiness, but remained outwardly calm, his presence alone serving as a deterrent against reckless aggression from either side. "Rex," Maya spoke up firmly once again, interrupting any further attempts at escalation by the Thessari commander. "If you mean to harm us, or this sanctuary, know that we will fight back without hesitation." Kyr's hand found hers gently, then squeezed it reassuringly, as Vrex's soldiers prepared for an assault, tension mounting between them all, yet still held in check by unspoken understandings and shared determination not to let violence consume what had been built here through mutual respect born of adversity. The fight was brief but brutal. Kyr, despite his injuries, moved with terrifying speed and precision against Vrex's soldiers, who were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer force of a Thessari diplomat in full combat form. Maya watched in awe yet horror as wings unfurled majestically amidst flames of battle, a creature both beautiful and fearsome beyond imagination. Amidst the chaos, one soldier managed to slip past Kyr's defenses, aiming for an unguarded angle behind them. Without hesitation or thought, Maya raised her shotgun, her hand steady despite trembling nervous, and fired a single shot that sent the attacker sprawling back with a cry of pain. The recoil from the weapon felt foreign yet strangely familiar as she stood there, breath held in suspended disbelief at having taken such drastic action to protect Kyr and their sanctuary. Her eyes met his, a mix of gratitude and concern reflecting through golden slit pupil orbs now focused entirely on her well-being amidst ongoing confrontation with Vrex's forces. "You could have died," he said quietly, as the immediate threat passed, stepping closer so that only she could hear him over clashing metal and shouted commands still echoing around them. Mia's body trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady when responding back. "You were my patient, me friend, now too, and I do not abandon patience." Tears welled unexpectedly in Kyr's eyes as he took her bloody hands into his own, feeling the warmth and determination through every scarred patch of skin. Neither did he abandon anyone under such protection either. These words sealed the bond between them, unbreakable by any threat or conflict. Rexkull watched all this unfold with growing anger yet also begrudging respect for what Maya and Kyr had formed, a partnership that defied expectations, set against his forces now hesitating due to unforeseen complications brought forth through personal stakes beyond mere mission objectives. "Retreat," Vrex finally ordered, turning back towards a waiting ship's park nearby. "This is not the time or place for further aggression. There will be consequences later if you do not heed our initial warnings about protecting this human and her sanctuary." With that, Vrek's soldiers began to withdraw under orders from their commander despite lingering hostility towards both Kyr and Maya, now seen as formidable adversaries rather than simple targets. The air slowly cleared of immediate danger, leaving only silence between them amidst aftermath of brief yet intense conflict. As the final echoes of departing troops faded into distance, Maya turned back towards Kyr'Thessan, seeing him not just through eyes accustomed to medical care, but also those recognizing deeper connections forged under pressures no ordinary scenario could produce. She stepped closer then, placing a hand on his chest, where scales met skin, a gesture both comforting and supportive amidst shared struggles now transcending initial misunderstandings. Kyr's golden gaze softened in response as he returned her touch, gentle, no longer just chief diplomat here, but partner in arms, standing together against threats looming large yet manageable through mutual trust formed amidst adversities faced head on, without hesitation or fear. This moment marked not just end of immediate conflict, but beginning of something far greater between them, bonds unbreakable by any force opposing, unity born from compassion shown across species barriers. The morning after the conflict brought a new sense of urgency to Maya's sanctuary as news spread that Thessari ships had arrived in Earth's orbit, responding to Kyr's distress signal. The tension was palpable among her small team. They knew this could be their moment for international recognition and aid, but also dreaded what it might mean for the delicate balance she'd helped create between humans and aliens. Maya busied herself with preparations while keeping an eye on Kyr, who remained in his dragon form despite being healed of immediate injuries. His golden eyes observed everything without expression as he lay atop a makeshift platform Maya had constructed to accommodate him comfortably inside their sanctuary's clinic area. She moved silently around the room, tidying up and gathering medical supplies for potential incoming patients, aliens or otherwise. "Maya," Kyr spoke finally, after hours of quiet observation, his voice carrying an unmistakable command yet tinged with emotion she hadn't heard before from him in this form. "It is time." She paused mid-step, turning to face him steadily despite the gravity of what they both knew was coming next. A fleet of Thessari ships had indeed appeared overnight. News reports buzzed about possible extraterrestrial contact at an unprecedented scale. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, moving closer until she could place a hand on his scaly flank, feeling the warmth beneath her touch even through thick scales. He shifted slightly under her gentle hold, wings lifting to accommodate her presence more fully. "I am prepared," he confirmed with a nod of acknowledgement towards her earlier aid and continued care. "But it is you who has made me truly ready for this moment." She smiled softly at his admission, but also felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on them both as they awaited the arrival of Kyr's people aboard their vessels. A few hours later, a delegation arrived led by Kyr's superior officer, Ambassador Solera Thessari. She was tall and regal with silver, black hair cascading over her shoulders like liquid night, eyes that mirrored Kyr's golden hue reflecting the skepticism of encountering such profound change in their chief diplomat's reports. Solera approached Maya first, extending a hand with grace, as if she understood something fundamental about human customs despite never having visited Earth before. "Dr. Chen," Solera greeted warmly, but professionally, her voice carrying authority without arrogance. "It is an honor to meet the woman who changed our perception of humanity." Maya accepted the handshake, feeling its strength and sincerity through every deliberate movement made towards forging a new understanding between worlds. She returned Solera's gaze evenly, neither backing down nor overstepping boundaries. "The pleasure is mine," Maya responded with equal respect and curiosity, about what lay ahead for all involved once Kerr presented his findings to this delegation of high-ranking officials from Thessari space. "If your chief diplomat speaks half as highly here as he does privately, then Earth has a chance." Solera's expression softened, eyes flickering towards the clinic area where Kerr still waited in dragon form. A rare smile graced her lips before turning back to Maya with renewed purpose. "He spoke of nothing but you and your sanctuary since his miraculous recovery," Solera admitted quietly so that only Dr. Chen could hear. "His words carry weight across our worlds." With this, the two women moved into Kerr's designated meeting room, where an assortment of Thessari dignitaries had gathered awaiting not just diplomatic briefings, but also validation for their chief diplomat's rare praise. Kerr shifted back to humanoid form as they entered, standing tall yet slightly more relaxed in his human guise among familiar faces from home. His eyes swept over the group before landing on Maya, who stood beside Solero with a steady demeanor despite knowing everyone was watching her closely now too. "I am here today not just to report our findings," Kerr began formally, but infused with personal weight, "but also to present my conclusions regarding humanity, a species we had long believed beneath our notice." Silence fell over the assembly as they waited for what would undoubtedly be a momentous announcement by their esteemed colleague and friend. Despite evidence showing considerable technological advancement among humans, he continued deliberately choosing his words carefully yet leaving no room for misinterpretation. "It is not merely those facts that make them worth our attention. Rather, it was one human woman who treated me like a creature needing care instead of judging or harming." Gasps rippled through the gathering as some Thessari recognized echoes of Maya's earlier treatment methods reflected here: gentle hands, soothing words, even when painful treatments were necessary. Dr. Chen did not see an alien, a monster, but someone in pain, Kerr emphasized with sincerity palpable enough to touch each person present regardless of distance or prior biases held towards Earthlings. She offered comfort without expectation and kindness beyond measure. His eyes met Maya's across the room, communicating gratitude more profoundly than any single sentence could articulate. She nodded back gently but resolutely, a silent promise upheld between them. "We have assessed dozens of species over centuries," Kerr concluded solemnly, now speaking directly to his peers, as well as anyone listening from Earth via translated live feeds set up moments ago by Maya's tech-savvy staff. "But never before has one showed compassion, so pure and selfless, towards something they believed was merely an animal." Cheers broke out among the assembled humans watching through screens. Even some Thessari dignitaries couldn't suppress their admiration for this unprecedented display of interspecies understanding. Solera stepped forward then, raising a hand to call for order amidst rising enthusiasm. "Your report," she acknowledged Kerr formally yet with genuine pride evident in her voice and posture alike, "is accepted not just as diplomatic decree, but personal testament worthy enough to alter our course entirely." In that moment, an accord was struck between worlds, an unspoken agreement forged through mutual respect born of compassion shown across species barriers. Humanity thus became Thessari's strongest ally, not because they possessed advanced technology or vast resources, but due to a single human woman's unwavering kindness. As celebrations commenced outside, under the watchful eyes of both Earthlings and extraterrestrials, alike now joined together through bonds stronger than mere treaties ever could be, Maya found herself approached by Solera once more within quieter confines, near Kerr's clinic area, where he remained, even after all others had dispersed back to ships. "Your sanctuary will receive any reward you desire," Solera offered sincerely, amidst whispered discussions between them now away from prying ears. "From wealth beyond measure to technology unimagined, name your price." Maya considered this offer thoughtfully for a brief moment before shaking her head with characteristic pragmatism. "Animals need help, that is what matters." Solera's eyes softened at Maya's response, recognizing the sincerity behind it, and also understanding its implications fully. "Very well, she conceded respectfully, after a quiet pause, acknowledging deeper truths conveyed through simple actions taken earlier between worlds bridged by such compassio. And alone, the alliance thus cemented, as promised rewards poured in, no gold or silver, but tools necessary for Maya's ongoing mission: medical supplies, advanced healing technologies previously beyond human reach now made accessible via interstellar cooperation, facilitated purely because one woman saw a wounded creature and helped without reservation. Ker visited often thereafter, shifting between forms, naturally now accustomed to living among humans, while never forgetting origins tied deeply with Thessari space, yet equally bound here by ties forged through mutual understanding, born from acts of compassion witnessed first, and amidst adversities faced together. In quieter moments, Maya would find him lounging in dragon form outside her sanctuary's grounds, wings spread wide under sunlight, casting iridescent shadows over lush greenery around them. She'd approach then, with a laugh, and gently coax him inside into a clinic where once he lay wounded, now transformed into place marking birth, place for something far greater, born from simple kindness shown amidst initial misunderstandings overcome. She stroked his scales softly as they sat together, her touch conveying comfort yet also deepening connection forged between them. "You are more than a patient," she murmured against the soft warmth of scaled skin beneath her hand. Her rumbled contentedly, in response, he no longer just an alien, or even diplomat, but something infinitely richer, formed through shared struggles and mutual respect earned over days spent caring for each other across species barriers. "You healed my body here," he acknowledged deeply, golden eyes meeting hers, with unspoken gratitude echoing through every word left unsaid yet felt profoundly between them both. "But it is you who has been healing me ever since." And so Maya's sanctuary continued, growing into symbol of hope and unity, bridging worlds divided not by space, but shared understanding, born from acts of compassion shown amidst challenges faced head on without hesitation or fear. In this way, a single human woman helped forge an alliance between species because she saw something beautiful in another creature, no matter what form it took. And that is how Earth found its strongest ally among stars, through the quiet strength of one who treats all beings with kindness and respect regardless of origin. Story told across infinite reaches of cosmos. End.